In this video tutorial, we're going to be recreating this mortar with wheel plate from cadexpert.com to Solidworks 2013. This is actually divided into 5 parts. Here are the parts. I'm going to flash it to the screen. We're going to be doing each part once at a time, and once we're done, once we completed all the parts we needed, we're going to assemble it into a mortar with wheel. So first thing is I'm going to open a new Solidworks document. And then I'm gonna change the unit to millimeter since that unit is the one we're gonna be using in this plate. Now I'm going to sketch a 78 diameter circle. And then extrude it by 110 millimeter. And I'm going to sketch another circle with 82 diameter. And then extrude it by 90 millimeter. Sketch another circle again with 120 diameter. And extrude it by 440 millimeter. Then after that, we're just gonna copy what we did on the other side. Made another 82 diameter circle again. And extrude it by 90 millimeter. And make another 78 diameter circle again. And extrude it by 110 millimeter. Now we're just going to use a chamfer with 5 millimeter distance from both ends of this object. Then lastly, we're going to sketch a 7.5 diameter circle from both end surface of the object. And extrude cut it to 6.25 millimeter. Now we just have to change the color of the object so we won't get confused once we assemble it. Now we're done from the first part. We're just gonna save it and use part 1 as the file name. And make sure you use new folder so it would be less hassle once we start to assemble. Now this is the second part. I'm gonna be sketching a 50 diameter circle. And extrude it to 55 millimeter. And then sketch another circle with 95 diameter. And extrude it by 440 millimeter. And after that, we're just gonna copy what we did on the other side again. Make 50 diameter circle. And extrude it to 55 millimeter. And we're gonna use chamfer again from both ends of the object with 5 millimeter distance. And now we're pretty much done to the second part. All we have to do is to change the color again. And save it under the file name part 2. Now this is the third part. Let's start by sketching a 200 millimeter line. And then 200 millimeter line again downward. And another 200 millimeter line again from right to left. And then 100 millimeter line upward. Then from this point, make a 550 millimeter line leftward. And then from your end point here, make a 100 millimeter line downward. Then make 200 millimeter line again leftward. From your end point here, make 500 millimeter line upward. Then from here, we just have to copy the measurement we use on the lower part. And then from this point, make another 200 millimeter line again rightward. And then I'm going to be using a tangent arc. 3-point arc rather. And then smart dimension, I'm gonna put the radius into 380. Now we're going to locate the center of this part. And we're gonna make an 80 diameter circle. And also 60 diameter circle from the center here. And also another 80 diameter circle in this center. Now we're going to draw a 150 millimeter line from here upward. And 250 millimeter line leftward. Then from this endpoint, I'm going to sketch a 50 diameter circle. Then I'm just gonna delete these measurements. Now to check if we did have the proper measurement, the distance from this 80 diameter circle to this 60 is 300. Then from both this 80 diameter circle is 750. So we had both distance right. Now we're going to extrude it. And we're going to extrude it by 50 millimeter. Now we're going to use fillet with 20 millimeter radius. And we're going to apply it with all the sides. Then another fillet with 40 millimeter radius. Apply it to both these sides. Now change the color appearance. And we're done. Save it under the file name part 3. Now this is the fourth part. I'm going to start by sketching a 500 diameter circle. And extrude it to 130 millimeter. After that, we're going to use chamfer with 20 millimeter distance and 45-degree angle from both front and the back surface. And now going back to the front side, we're going to sketch a 380 diameter circle here. And then extrude cut it to 20 millimeter. Then we're just gonna do the same thing here at the back. Now use chamfer again with 20 millimeter distance and 45-degree angle from both the front and the back. Then from the front view, we're going to sketch a 200 diameter circle. And from the center, make a line and connect it to the right endpoint. Then after that, click the arrow button beside the linear sketch pattern and make it circular sketch pattern. And then change the number of instances to 4. And then start sketching circles using the lines as the reference. After that, click the circles that you've made and click this equal button. Then use Smart Dimension to fix the diameter to 62 mm. Then I'm just gonna delete all these guidelines that I've used. And I'm gonna sketch a 78 diameter circle here at the center. Then lastly, we're gonna extrude cut it by 90 mm. Now change the color appearance. And save it under the file name Part 4. Now this is the last part we're going to be doing before assembling it. I'm going to start by sketching a 1390 mm line. This would serve as our baseline. Then from this point, I'm going to be sketching a 47.50 mm line upward. From here, make a 4 mm line to serve as our distance. Then using that distance, sketch a 55 mm line from the base. And by the way, I'm sketching guidelines here on the top instead of the lines here at the bottom because I get confused easily. And I purposely did the 1390 mm line first because I just want to make sure that the length of my object is accurate all throughout the process. Now I'm just going to delete this 4 mm line and replace it with 16 mm. This would serve as our distance when we draw a 32 mm line from the baseline. Now make a line connecting this 47.50 mm line to the 32 mm line. And I'm just going to delete all this dimension and also trim the lines that are not needed. Then from this point, sketch a tangent arc and fix the radius to 25. Now we're going to make a 550 mm line. This would serve as our distance. Then from the baseline, make a 250 diameter circle. Then we're gonna sketch a line connecting this 25 radius arc to this 250 diameter circle. Then after that, we can delete the circle already. Then from this point, make a 200 millimeter line. And a 10 millimeter line downward. Then 80 millimeter line rightward. Then from this point, sketch a tangent arc and fix the radius to 25. And make a 200 millimeter line. And then tangent arc again with 25mm radius. Now from here, make a 150mm line. This would serve as our distance to make a 140 diameter circle from our baseline. Now make a line connecting the tangent arc to 140 diameter circle. Then after that, we can delete the circle already. And from this endpoint of our baseline, make a 160 diameter circle. And then sketch a 57mm line from here, rightward. And then downward, connecting to the baseline. Now we just have to trim these lines because those are not needed. And then we will make a line leftward from here and a line upward connecting it to the 150mm line. And then now close the baseline. And then trim the lines that are not needed. Now we're going to revolve it 360 degrees. Now we just have to change the section view to the front plane so we could see the inside when we apply extruded cut. Now this circle here is already 64 diameter. We're just gonna add another circle so we could extrude cut it to 384. Then from here, make a 32 diameter circle. Then extrude cut it to 102mm. Now we're going to apply chamfer with 9mm distance and 45-degree angle from both endpoints of where we extruded. Now, click the top line on the left and this arrow on the reference geometry option and select point. And then click this part. Now we have a reference point. Now we just have to sketch a 95 diameter circle. And then extrude cut it. But first, change the direction to mid-plane and the distance to 300mm just to surpass the thickness of this object. And there. Now for the last thing, use a chamfer here with 10mm distance and 45-degree angle. Now we're done to the last part. We just have to change the color. and then save it under the file name part 5.
Let's assemble all the parts we made. Click New, then go to Assembly. You will be automatically requested to insert a component. The first component we will insert is the body of our mortar. You can click on the View Origins so you can see the origins of every parts. Next, select Insert Component and add the pin for the lower part of the body. To duplicate objects, just hold Ctrl, then drag the object away from the original one. Next, click Mate, then click this face and the body's right face so that it will coincide. Click Check, then mate the body's lower hole and the pin's left arm. Repeat what we just did for the other pin. Now, let's insert the upper pin for the body. Repeat the mate steps we just did earlier. Then duplicate the body and mate it to one of the pins. Next, we will insert the wheels of our mortar. Duplicate 3 more wheels so you will have 4 wheels. Mate all the wheels to the pins. For the last part, insert the mortar. Mate the mortar's hole to the upper pin. In order for us to insert the mortar inside the pin, we must use Advanced Mate, then click With Mate. For the width selection, click the 2 inner face of the body, and for the top selection, click the face of the mortar where the hole is located. Then it's done.